Hey, I'm Timothy Lemoyne, and this is the second video for putting together the wren shed. Named it because it's got a shed-style roof, and wrens will go in it as well as other birds, quite a few other ones. I usually go to nestwatch.org to figure out what kind of birds a specific birdhouse would target. For this video, we are focusing on the sides, so these two pieces here. So as you watch this video, the sides, and we're also going to use the same piece of wood for these brackets on the side. Totally decorative. They have no function other than looking good. So check it out. Right, on this video I'm focusing almost entirely on sheet 10. Sheet 10 is basically showing I get my two sides as well as my brackets out of here. I'm also referring back to sheet 5 where I have full-size printouts of this thing and measurements that I need to make. As I look at this, to get this piece to the correct length, I'm going to have to cut it at 11 5/8. So that's actually going to be my first mark, because I'm going to mark it right on the edge here, 11 5/8, and then I'm going to let the saw do the cutting. So that's my first thing. I am making sure that the side that I'm looking at is actually for my sides and my brackets, so look for those things to make sure you're cutting the right piece. So we're just going to measure from one side here, and 11 5/8 is the number. I'm going to zoom in here in a moment, so in case you have a hard time measuring, you can find 5/8. So hang on here one sec. All right, so here we are, zoomed in. So 11 5/8, you got to do a little bit of math. It's not too terribly hard, but I usually in my head convert to 16ths. So 5/8 equals 10 16ths. So that's kind of the knowledge that I'm going with. So right at 10 here, if I were to count all the way up to here, this is 8, 9, 10 is the exact number that I need to mark. So 10 5/8. Just like on the other pieces, after you have your tick mark, which I'm showing right here, you need to use a square. Make sure it's flat on this edge. That'll always be the same. That's the proper way to use a square. And there's my line. And when I cut, I'm going to have, you can just kind of give a general idea of where your angle is going to go. The next thing I'm going to do is slide down to the other side of my board, do the exact same thing. And that number will also be 10 5/8. Not going to zoom up this time. If you're having issues finding that on your ruler, you can go ahead and just rewind this video and check it out there. And so I'm going to mark this one also. And one of the things you're going to want to do is have both of your angles cut this way. So you may have to kind of spin some things to make sure that you end up getting pieces cut the right way. So I want my slashes going the same direction. Going to the miter saw next. All right, so I'm at the miter saw right now. It is not set up to make this cut. 22.5 degrees is the number that I went with, and most miter saws will have a notch for that particular spot. And then I need to get my board set up in the correct place so I can make my cut. So keep in mind that when you bring the saw in, it's not actually going to match this line. You just roughed this in. The key is you want the blade way back in here to come out exactly on the spot that you have marked with the saw. So I'm going to adjust that and get it in just the perfect spot. When you're going to cut, make sure your hand is as far over to the side as you can. See, my thumb is down, and saw head goes all the way up. I start it and then cut through. Be sure that you leave the saw head down until the blade comes to a complete stop, and you've got your first side. I'm going to flip this around and do the exact same thing. My finger is currently off the trigger, and I am going to make sure that I make my correct cut. Same thing, make sure you're being safe. This is your other side. All right, so this last piece here, this is going to be what you end up cutting your brackets out with. These 3 pieces, 2 sides, and this remainder here. Next thing you're going to do is glue on some patterns, and you're going to end up doing some drilling and some cutting on these. So watch this next. All right, now I'm over at my glue table. I've got supplemental items. I have them set up to print en masse in the event that you're going to make a few of these. These are the brackets. You actually need 2 of them. You do need to cut them out so they look identical to this. And the keys on this, I'll hold it a little closer. When you're looking at this thing, I want to be able to line up this edge and this edge right on the sides of my piece of wood. I don't want to work hard, I want to work smart. The other thing that I have, again, a supplemental thing, these are your sides, and this is going to have center points so that when you go to drill the ventilation slots, that you can get it in a precise location, they look nice, they're evenly spaced. Those also have to be cut out precisely, and same kind of thing, I'm trying to set myself up so I can glue edges on edges of boards. Make it easy for yourself. So this is one of the sides. I might end up speeding up this part of the video because I don't know that it's all that interesting to watch or necessary. But I am using rubber cement. I don't know that it matters what brand you use, but this is what I have. And I'm going to take my pattern. This is where I'm lining up exactly on the top, getting this marked. This is getting glued down. It'll later be pulled up, but now I've got a center point for hole drilling. You're going to do the exact same thing on your next piece. Put another one on. All right, so now I've got my 2. I did pause to get those things in. These are going to get set aside. They take about 2 minutes to dry. Next, you're pulling in your other piece. And what you need to do is need to mix and match and flip and rotate until you have a piece, or have it arranged in such a way where you're going to glue this on so we can get those edges. I do want the grain of my wood running up and down. I believe that'll make for a stronger support bracket that'll last for, I usually hope for a decade on a birdhouse. So that one's going to go there. And this guy here, nope, don't want to do that because I don't want to have to cut a straight edge. So this guy is going in the other corner. Got 2, and I have room for lots more if you're making multiple birdhouses. So just like in the last case, thin layer of rubber cement, get it lined up, take the time, do it right, make sure it's perfect. Oop. Hey, same thing on this one, 2 minutes till it's dry and then it's ready to cut. All right, so what you're looking at now, we're on the drill press, and I have a Forstner bit. It's a 1/2-inch bit, and it does have a tip on it. You can see the tip right here. And when you are looking at your pattern, you have a center point. And what I'm going to attempt to do is get that point or tip of the Forstner bit right on that bullseye. I personally don't think that this one needs to be clamped. It's a longer board and should be easy enough to hold. So I'm going to hold off to the side here, put the chip guard in, and drill. On deep cuts, like you saw in the safety test, you want to make sure you back out. Try to go similar in the speed as to what I just did right there. Make sure your chips are out of the way so we have a clean surface to work on. Do the exact same thing, line up right on that plus sign, drill bit out of the way, chip guard in place, and drill again. Paper's going, it's of no matter. I'm actually going to tear it off as soon as this hole's done, and I'm going to call her good. I'm not concerned about that. So next, this should peel right off. You got 2 holes drilled perfectly spaced. You're going to do the exact same thing for your other side. So now I'm looking at these brackets. Totally up to you if you're going to cut this inside out. If you do choose to cut the inside out, you do need to learn how to put the blade inside on the scroll saw. So I'll have a link to the video, and it'll probably show up in the corner up here how to switch the blade out and get it in that hole. But you will have to drill and cut that first if you choose to cut that out. Totally not required. But if you choose to do it, you need to drill a hole for the drill bit. So I'm doing that right now. Anywhere inside of that opening is completely fine. You'll notice I'm not even taking the time to get it in a precise location, just putting a hole in it. I'm going to glue this down a little tighter. Whoopsie. So once you have the scroll saw set up, you can go ahead and cut out the insides of this. Remember that this is 100% totally optional. You do not have to make these cuts. I just think it looks kind of nice when you do. So after you're done cutting, you remove the blade and you have your internal cut. These last parts, if you look, whether you choose to do this or not is your call. This you do have to make sure you cut out. So I'm going to zip those out real quick. You're done cutting, you go ahead and pull the paper off, and these before you put them on, I usually kind of do a little sanding along the edges. All right, so again, that was cutting the side pieces. I now have my two side pieces cut. Ventilation holes are in, and then I also have the bracket pieces that go on the front, and those are just decorative. So this is the wrench shed. Like I said before, plans are available on my website, www.timothylemoyne.com. These are a free download, just a guy that wants people to make birdhouses. So hopefully you enjoy. I'll put out the next video soon about getting your front, your bottom, and your back pieces cut. Take care.